Hi besties, welcome back to the channel. Grab your tea, your snacks, and your snuggliest blanket, because today we're diving into a tale that could change the way you think about everything regarding the custody battle between Christine and Kody. Because Christine's book, yes, the one you assumed was a memoir, could be keeping a whole lot more under wraps than it is admitting. Suppose I told you that buried in those chapters were omens, hints, really, at something sinister. Something that would make sense of why the court did not waste a single moment when Christine brought her charges. I had a feeling, besties. You know, I always listen to my gut, and I began to reread Christine's statements. After that sealed court ruling came down, and when I did, it all clicked: veiled statements, offhand remarks, warnings about truly feeling uneasy, and the timeline matches word for word with some very real, very public court filings. What we could be seeing is a cover-up, a quick one. Now, I am not suggesting Christine went out and penned a tell-all diary of abuse on sister wives and beyond. No. But when you read between the lines, when you look at her description versus what the court documents actually state and what actually transpired in Flagstaff, it all makes sense. And it is scary. Let's take a step back. We're going back to 2022. The year everything began to fall apart, and Christine took the first legal actions to defend Truly. And that is when something strange occurred in the court system. Something you normally never find in family law cases in Utah, especially not when the father is pushing back. But before I describe what the court did and why it is unprecedented, let's consider what Christine actually said in her book, because that may just have been what set things off. So besties, I sat down with Christine's book, Becoming Free and Fierce, and began sifting through the chapters that discuss the early days in Flagstaff, the aftermath of the breakup, and most critically, how Truly was treated when she remained with her dad, Kody and Robyn. I wasn't expecting much, to be honest. Christine's always been guarded with her words. But when I reached chapter 17, I had to stop reading, because in a matter of sentences, she planted a breadcrumb trail that cuts directly into courtroom fodder. She wrote, "There was a night when Truly came home from her visit and told me something that didn't sit right. I won't share the details, but it broke my heart and made me question everything." That is it, one sentence. But in family court, that is a flashing red flag, because she didn't just tell us Truly was uncomfortable. She said she questioned everything. And besties, Christine doesn't throw around that kind of verbiage lightly. That is the first breadcrumb, but it didn't stop there. Later in the book, Christine relates that she feared Truly didn't have a true space there, that it was temporary, that she wasn't supposed to stay long. Do you recognize what that sounds like as a legal issue? It sounds like instability, lack of safe housing, and emotional detachment, all of which would be considered serious by a family court commissioner, particularly in a child under the age of 16 first. Let me take you through what we know. Christine's book was completed late in 2024. The filing for custody, autumn 2024. The countersuit from Kody and his surprise demand for sole custody, literally weeks after her manuscript was finished. You getting this? Because I am. Christine might not have spoken publicly about the specifics, but someone in the courtroom noticed the indicators. Perhaps it was the judge, perhaps it was a gal guardian ad litem, but when those claims, or at least implied claims, appeared, that court acted quickly. I interviewed a family law paralegal who has handled custody cases in Utah, and she said to me, when there is any mention, even indirect mention, of emotional distress, housing instability, or discomfort during visitation, particularly when a minor child is under 16 years old, the court will nearly always act cautiously. That might involve ordering assessments, appointing a guardian ad litem, or speeding up mediation, which is precisely what occurred. The commissioner in Christine and Kody's case allegedly asked for a parenting class, mediation, and potentially home assessments, which is not typical, unless something seriously bad is on the table. So, let's discuss Truly, because although Christine left her book vague intentionally, the two times she did discuss Truly's visits to Kody and Robyn's home, it was telling, and goodness, besties, it gave me the chills. Christine wrote that there was one time when Truly came home visibly shaken. She explained it in that typical mom attempting to remain calm manner, But any parent who has ever had to shield a child from a toxic situation understands wordlessly what she meant between the lines. Said, took the word genuinely, and told me she did not want to sleep there any longer, said it did not feel like home. That is when I knew. Something had shifted in her eyes. That right there. That is not a careless parenting moment. That is a moment of maternal fear, the sort where a mother knows, in an instant, that her child has been neglected, emotionally spurned, or worse. And Christine, being the plus-sized woman she is, didn't point fingers. She didn't make it explicit. But she didn't need to. What room was Truly actually staying in? Public records and fan-reported house floor plans reveal that Robyn and Kody's Flagstaff residence has 5 bedrooms. But those bedrooms are taken Robyn and Kody's master bedroom Aurora, Brianna, Solomon, Ariella. That is 5. So there was no special room for Truly. And in Christine's memoir, she verifies that Truly stayed in a guest room with no window curtains, a mattress on the floor, and a cold feeling that didn't feel welcoming. What kid wants to return to a spot like that? Worse, she states that at one point, Truly slept in a room with an outside door, no inside access to the main house. That is not weird. That is unsafe. In Utah family court, this might be taken as a safety issue, particularly if the child indicates that she felt isolated or not welcome. Christine wrote, Truly told me that after that visit, she never wanted to stay there alone again. She only wanted to go if she was accompanied by her sisters. I respected that. And you know what? That choice, really choosing not to return, might have been the turning point. Because Utah law permits children 14 and older to give preference in custody disputes, and Truly turned 15 in April 2025. That timing, it coincides exactly with when Kody suddenly dropped his custody case. Besties, by this time, you likely sense what I sensed. That something wasn't right. Not only in the home actually appeared, but in the speed the court reacted when Christine came forward. All right. Let me be crystal clear. Utah courts of family do not hurry unless there is something serious happening. In most custody wars, particularly where the parents are public figures, the court does not want the chaos. They will typically encourage mediation, parenting classes, and a slow walk towards trial. That is what they did initially. But then, everything changed. Here is what we know based on timeline alignment and expert legal opinion. Christine brought her initial motion late in 2024, alleging typical custody and support requests. Kody countersued, requesting joint custody of Truly, which shocked everybody. Then Christine suggested underhandedly in court that the house might not be proper for overnight use. The judge promptly ordered mediation, parenting classes, and marked the case as potentially high conflict. All business as usual, but then things took a turn. Less than 3 weeks after Christine finished her court-ordered parenting class, Kody still hadn't finished his, and then, out of the blue, he did something very uncommon. He requested sealing the whole case. That includes custody filings, support calculations, parenting evaluations, all court orders in Utah. That doesn't occur unless there is an accusation of abuse or neglect, a minor is in danger, or a party is attempting to shield public reputation. Now, Kody's apologists may cry. He just wanted privacy. But besties, let's not forget, this is the same man who has appeared on reality television for more than a decade. Privacy, Kody never had an interest in that. One, however, and that is reputation, and in particular, the threat of Christine sharing more in her book that he does care about. Here is another curious twist. Christine didn't contest the seal. She let it happen. And legal experts say that's the smart move when you've already made your case clear enough behind closed doors, and the judge is already on your side, which, besties, it seems like he was. This wasn't just about sealing sensitive financial data. This was a preemptive strike to protect Kody from discovery, the legal process where Christine's attorneys could have subpoenaed bank records, traced real estate trusts, pulled transaction histories from asset sales, requested affidavits from Truly or court, appointed advocates, and Kody. He cut it all off by settling abruptly, avoiding trial completely. The court case between Christine and Kody gets settled quietly. No trial. No discovery. No public support order posted. Everything gets zipped up under a seal and Kody walks out of the courtroom with a signed agreement. And no more legal spotlight. You'd think he'd lay low, right? Wrong. Within weeks of the settlement being signed, Kody Brown starts spending like a man with no financial worries in the world. This wasn't just retail therapy, this was suspicious. Christine's book was out. Truly's custody was finalized. Child support was presumably agreed upon. And yet, Kody suddenly starts flaunting wealth. We're talking a brand. New Mercedes-Benz, valued at over $100,000, multiple Rolex watches, spotted by eagle-eyed fans during Flagstaff sightings. A $25,000 piece of modern abstract art delivered to his and Robyn's home, and most bizarrely, a reported $1.6 million mortgage on their already purchased home. Now, besties, here's where it gets shady. If you're taking on a massive debt load and then spending like this, it raises a major red flag. You might be doing asset stripping, intentionally inflating your liabilities to reduce visible net worth. This is a classic move seen in high-conflict divorce and custody cases, especially when one party wants to avoid high child support obligations, sell or liquidate property, take cash, and move it into luxury items or trusts. Take out large loans to reduce net worth on paper, claim lower income or asset worth. To the court, undefined in surprise, Christine's amount of child support was never disclosed. The records were sealed by the court just before Kody sold Coyote Pass, the house the whole family had invested in together. So, was that pure coincidence? Undefined, the ultimate play in a deliberate plan to safeguard his assets from Christine and Truly. As per real estate filings in Coconino County, Coyote Pass lots were sold by the private buyer soon after the court closed the case. Here is what we know. A private buyer purchased the parcels for no advertisements on MLS wherever Kody and Robyn raked in 50% of the proceeds. The funds were never accounted for in public. Where did it go? Did it pay for the Mercedes, the art, the coordinating Rolexes and Tiffany jewelry Christine talked about, or perhaps into a trust in Robyn's name? The court case is sealed. Kody settles quietly. The battle for custody ends almost as quickly as it started. And then, poof, the luxury spending starts. But what we didn't immediately see. What was going on behind the scenes in property records and financial documents? As it turns out, Kody may not even own his own home anymore. And that is not an insult. It is a strategic play. It is called ownership shielding. And it is an old dodge used to hide high-value assets from child support calculations and legal discovery. Let's discuss Robyn and Kody's new home. The huge Flagstaff property bought in 2023. Fans recall the drama. Kody referred to it as a fresh start. Robyn sobbed. You know the scene. What we didn't see on camera, the name on the deed to the property wasn't Kody Brown. It was under something called the Whitestone Trust, a recently created legal entity. Now, besties, that isn't typical behavior for a person who recently went through a public divorce. You see, in the past, Kody always purchased properties in his own name or with a wife. Even when he purchased the Las Vegas houses, his name appeared on most of them. Now, after Christine, he creates a revocable trust, purchases another home in it, and then takes out a $1.6 million mortgage on that trust. What is not only strange, but suspicious, is that this is a technique employed to create the illusion, legally, that someone no longer owns valuable assets. Guess what? If they're the settlor, the beneficiary, and the trustee, they still have control of it. It just doesn't appear that way. And when courts are searching for assets during child support determinations, that trust can be used as a smokescreen. It gives them time. It makes discovery harder, and unless the right subpoenas were issued by Christine's lawyers, which is doubtful because the case was sealed, she might not have known this trust even existed. Let me repeat that. Christine might have left without realizing Kody was concealing assets within a trust, and that is precisely what family court lawyers warn their clients against in contentious divorces. Trusts can be used to hide equity, stall transparency, and lower reported net worth. According to public filings, the title is held in the name of the Whitestone Trust, the loan is attached to that trust, and the Coyote Pass equity. Maybe as a down payment, which is to say, Christine might have been excluded from any portion of that equity, even if it was community property. even if she contributed to it. Now that we know Kody put the Flagstaff house in the Whitestone Trust, the question is, what else did he transfer into it? Because trusts don't only contain real property. They can technically include vehicles, luxury items, trailers, RVs, recreational property, art collections, jewelry, even liquid cash is safe if set up properly, and going by Christine's own words in her book. And what fans have noticed in the backdrop of Sister Wives shows, there is reason to believe Kody employed this trust as a personal safe to stash money, manage assets, and keep Christine from laying hands on any of it. Christine writes of one visit where truly noticed art adorning nearly all the walls of Kody's house. She said, "I was surprised at how much new art was hung in their home. Thousands of dollars, no problem," said really resembled a gallery. Not that it was a home. That is not interior design. Girlfriends, that is storing wealth. Several limited edition art posters, particularly by collectible artists, can be worth tens of thousands of dollars. They are more difficult to follow, don't appear on standard bank statements, and can be transferred legally into a trust without much supervision. And when Christine mentions Kody began purchasing trailers, motorcycles, and trucks, that is more of the same. You convert cash into hard assets, then put them into a trust, and then they vanish from public sight until someone happens to know to subpoena the trust itself. And even in that case, only if it is not irrevocable. Those assets are shielded from child support calculations. A Utah state planner had this very arrangement weighed in on by him during a Reddit AMA, in which he said, "Revocable trusts are commonly used to temporarily shield wealth. They're not bulletproof, but they hold off access to asset information, and that can be life, supporting in pending litigation." And in Kody's case, the timing is everything. Christine files, Kody settles, the court seals everything. Then he quickly shuffles high value property into the trust. Coincidence? Or a clever diversion of funds aimed at avoiding support responsibilities? That is the sad part, girlfriends. Because with the court case closed and no public financial revelations, Christine might have settled on incomplete information. She might not have been aware of what assets were sold, what proceeds were paid out, what was kept in the trust, or what was bought in the months following the settlement. And truly, she'll never get a penny of that unless Christine reopens the case. And that is a possibility if Kody breaks the terms. Sight besties, let's discuss the land. Because Coyote Pass wasn't merely a storyline on Sister Wives. It was the family's largest financial outlay. Years of discussion, promises, and promises. And then, nothing to hear. But in private, Kody and Robyn sold it off quietly. And Christine didn't get a dime. Just a refresher, the entire family was supposed to build homes on this land. Each wife had her lot. Christine even dreamed of a future there for Truly. But then the family started falling apart. Christine left in 2021, Janelle followed in 2022, and Mary, well, she was barely in the loop. By 2024, Kody and Robyn were the only ones still holding ownership over key parcels. Right, despite all the huffing and puffing about equal property rights, Kody had taken care to keep controlling interest. And then he sold it. Under wraps and entirely off the public grid. No MLS listing. No real estate brochures. No on-camera declaration. Not even a rumor on social media. So how do we know? Since Coconino County, Arizona County records indicate that in mid-2025, all Coyote Pass parcels were sold to a private buyer in one sale. For cash, not one of them was offered for sale. Besties, that is not how regular people sell property. Here is what was revealed. All other parcels in Kody and Robyn's names were sold in a one-day transaction. No mortgage was noted, i.e., the purchase was made in cash. The net proceeds, after closing, were divided 50/50ths to Robyn and Kody. No word of Janelle, Mary, or Christine receiving monies, and no comment from Kody or TLC ever aired, which is, Christine received absolutely nothing from the property she co-financed and was promised to receive part of. Let's dissect. Listing off-market means no public paper trail. When listing it keeps other third parties, such as Christine's lawyers, from being aware it was available for purchase. Provides room for undisclosed buyer relationships. The buyer might be a shell LLC, family member, or trust. And most importantly, it enables quick cash conversion. So what do you do after selling land in an airtight case where child support is being figured? You strip the equity, transfer the funds, and begin spending before it can be questioned by the court. Sound familiar? Christine wrote in her book. Coyote Pass was supposed to be our legacy. I didn't just lose land, I lost my belief in Kody's word. And truly, that was the site her mom had said they'd build their house on back then. Now it is lost, surreptitiously signed away, no rhyme or reason, no closure. If you thought Kody's clandestine sale of Coyote Pass was the most suspect maneuver in this drama, think again, because after that property quietly switched owners, another weird pattern began to develop. Kody's name started disappearing from several public documents. No new home buys, no car registrations, no property tax returns in his legal name. It is as if he vanished on paper. But why would a person who constructed their entire public persona on television suddenly vanish within the financial system? Well, besties, it may not be about privacy. It could be protection from child support enforcement and from potential future legal action. Let me dissect this. In high-conflict divorce or custody disputes, particularly where support calculations or judgment liens are at issue, it is not unusual for high-net-worth individuals to utilize instruments such as trusts, nominee title holders out of state shell corporations, or even living relatives to own assets on paper. And what do they do then? Their name vanishes from deed searches, DMV records, even business ownership databases. But don't get me wrong, they're still driving the vehicle, living in the home, and sporting the Rolex. It is all just being done off the books. Remember that nice new Flagstaff house Kody and Robyn bought? It is leased in the name of the Whitestone Trust, not Kody himself, but Kody still resides there. Keep it up, pays for it presumably, and shoot there. Why on earth would someone do that? Because it postponed discovery in any future legal action, limits traceable assets on financial affidavits, and makes enforcement agencies confused if support ever becomes unpaid besties. This is legal chess, and Kody seems to be playing all the right moves to stay several steps ahead of accountability. Here's another one. Multiple fans have spotted Kody in brand new trucks and trailers, including a luxury RV seen parked in his driveway multiple times in late 2025. Yet no records under Kody's name show recent vehicle purchases, not even financing. So what are the possibilities? They're held in trust, they're bought via an LLC, or they're sole titled by Robyn. Any of those would keep them beyond the reach of support garnishment or public inspection. And what about Christine? Unless she produces evidence of secret funds and returns to reopen the case, Christine might have no legal recourse to take what she might have been entitled to. The settlement is closed. The discovery period is closed, and Kody, he has ghosted the system. Teda, we need to discuss truly again, because if you recall from Christine's book and the prior sealed court documents, there is a quiet, steady thread weaving through all of it. A theme that doesn't shout but speaks in hushed tones in each line Christine intentionally selected, even wasn't able to sleep there by herself. Something had altered her eyes. I won't tell you the details, but it broke my heart. Now, at a first glance, that could sound like a child who just misses home or being embarrassed around a stepmom. But besties, we know Christine, and we know she is not one to talk lightly. When a mother refuses to share with the public specifics out of respect for her daughter, but still copies those lines into a printed book, that is no filler, that is a message. A warning Christine spilled in her book. Truly's visits to Kody and Robyn's home were, in her own terms, emotionally cold. But one small detail caught our attentions. She slept in a room with an exterior, only entrance. No inner access, undefined. It was tiny, sparsely furnished, no ornamentation. Undefinedly, a bed on a frame and a chilly floor. Besties, that is not a bedroom. Undefined, that is a finished space. Now perhaps a home office, a garage suite, or something with no real relevance to the rest of the house. And when you place a young girl in a room removed from the principal home, with no other siblings present, no parent monitoring, and no cozy atmosphere, that is not only neglectful, that is dangerous. And if Christine brought any iteration of that issue to court, particularly if Truly parroted that in interviews or assessments, the court would have given it serious consideration. Very serious consideration. I asked a child custody caseworker in Utah, through a legal online forum, and here is what they told me. If a minor expresses discomfort or fear during visitation, particularly regarding sleeping arrangements, inadequate supervision, or solitude, we might refer the case to child welfare for review. It doesn't have to be literal abuse. Undefined emotional damage and environmental disregard are not taken lightly. Which brings us round to Christine's quickie court case. Why it blew up, why it was sealed, and why Kody so quickly agreed to settle. It wasn't merely about money. It was about something Truly had said. Utah law permits children 14 and up to make known their preference in custody decisions. And though that preference is not conclusive, judges must take it into account. And what happened after Truly turned 15? Christine had full custo undefined counter, claim disappeared undefined visitation, never resumed again undefined, Truly never returned to Flagstaff alone. Again, it's as if the moment Truly had a legal voice, the fight stopped. We've talked a lot about Kody, the financial manipulation, the trusts, the custody games. But there's someone else who deserves a closer look, someone who's always been in the background but never truly held accountable. And that person is Robyn. Because Christine's book doesn't just hint at abuse or neglect in Kody's home, it also subtly paints a picture of a woman, Robyn, who stood by while it all happened. Christine wrote, "I always hoped that Robyn would make Truly feel welcome, that she'd be a second mother when I wasn't around. But what Truly explained to me, that never actually took place. That is heartbreaking. It is not merely about lack of warmth. It is about deliberate disengagement. And when Christine explains the way Truly slept in a chilly room, with no decent bed, no curtains, no sibling in close proximity, and no adult visiting, where was Robyn? She was present. She dwelled in that residence. She assisted in establishing those boundaries. And nothing, to Christine's account, was done to rectify it." Christine writes in a subsequent chapter, "Seriously came back from one visit saying she didn't say a word to Robyn the whole time. No, hello dinner wasn't shared, just silence. Silence, not a stepmother, not even a host. Just a female in the house who was ignored. No besties. Consider this from the point of view of the court. You have a 14-year-old girl alleging she is ignored, not given space, and emotionally neglected in the company of her father and his wife. That is not merely awkward. That is a possible breach of a child's emotional well-being. And that question comes up, was Robyn a bystander or a participant? Let's not forget, viewers caught on as well. Fans observed this as well in Sister Wives. Background shots. Truly was never really seen interacting with Robyn. The other children, particularly Aurora and Brianna, always stuck around. But Truly appeared alone on one show. Truly sat alone while the other children and Robyn giggled in the kitchen. Is that tangible legal evidence? But when you put it with Christine's book, her court documents, and Truly's refusal to cooperate, it begins to look like a pattern. In Utah, custodial parents and every adult in the house are to offer a safe, stable emotional environment, adequate sleeping arrangements, communication, and monitoring a friendly family-like atmosphere. What Christine said was that Robyn's home failed on all of these counts. And Christine's attorneys, they were wise enough not to say it directly. So did Christine. But the court finally heard the message, and that is probably why they sealed the case so quickly. Just when you think this tale can't get any more twisted, Robyn and Kody did something that left even die-hard fans speechless. After the custody battle was resolved, after the land was sold off quietly behind closed doors, after Truly stopped showing up, after Christine walked away with dignity, Kody and Robyn rejoiced, not with healing, not with reconciliation, but with extravagance, gaudy, costly, in-your-face extravagance. And here is where it slaps hard, because from Christine's book and court-linked timelines, those acquisitions took place practically immediately after the financial papers were signed. Let's begin with the most symbolic one. A big, bespoke, design diamond ring that Robyn was seen wearing just a few weeks after the court settlement. Christine barely mentioned it in her book writing. I saw pictures of them wearing matching jewelry, rings that weren't there before. It didn't sting due to the romance. It stung because I knew what it was paid for. That one sentence speaks volumes. She wasn't interested in the romance. She was interested in the message. "We did take everything we could and purchased a ring." One fan reported delivery in Flagstaff included a private art dealer driving up to Kody and Robyn's house with a canvas worth more than $25,000. It wasn't displayed on television. It wasn't posted online. However, a neighbor came forward anonymously to a tabloid and said, "They said it was a commissioned piece. It was from a private artist in Scottsdale." The driver told him it was a gift. A gift from whom, with whose money? Because if Kody's money was being scrutinized just months ago, and now he is dropping 5 figures on ambiance, that is not merely a red flag. That is a blinking billboard of fiscal irresponsibility. Christine also suggests that the house started filling up with large toys, new trucks, trailers. An RV said it resembled a showroom rather than a home. Again, let's consider the obvious. Where did he get that money? Because at the same time, Christine wasn't spotted with any settlement windfall money, truly didn't receive a new trust or scholarship according to available records, and Kody accepted a $1.6 million mortgage rather than scaling back. So what was he up to? While all this was going on, Christine was publicizing her book Living Modestly in Utah, raising truly away from cameras, avoiding press about the sealed case, and supporting her older kids emotionally. Meanwhile, Robyn was wearing Cartier, Tiffany, and custom designer labels. Kody was flashing Rolexes, driving new vehicles, and filling walls with art. It's a contrast that doesn't just sting, it infuriates. Let's talk about Kody's mouth, because for a man who spent over a decade oversharing on national television, suddenly his tone around custody, and truly specifically, got quiet. Too quiet, and when he did speak, he couldn't keep his story straight. Let's rewind to early 2025, in an interview with a local Flagstaff paper promoting the newest season of Sister Wives. Kody was asked, "How are things with Truly now that custody has been worked out?" His answer, "We've got a good rhythm. She comes up when she can. Christine and I made it work. But here is the issue, besties that never transpired. Because, per several fan accounts, and Christine's own words, Truly hasn't been back to Flagstaff since the settlement, not alone. Not even temporarily, and certainly not on any rhythmic schedule." Christine penned in her book, "After all that, Truly did not choose to come back. I respected her choice, and we've never looked back." That is a powerful declaration. Not ambiguous, not resentful, just final. And here is why it is so much worse. There is no video, no pictures, no word of Truly visiting Kody since mid-2024. She is remarkably missing from all family occasions, Christmas celebrations, and even birthday updates shared on Robyn's children's social media. That is not accidental. That is on purpose space. And although Kody reported to the press they remain close, fans have reported something different from Christine, that Truly no longer feels safe or supported there. So why would Kody ever lie? Well, let's look at the optics. If he says Truly doesn't drop by, people will wonder why if he confesses she won't come. They'll think he did something if he tells them they're working things out. It makes him seem cooperative, loving, victimized. Remember, Kody always plays the misunderstood father in public, even when he was pushing Janelle away, even when he was yelling at Christine, even when he was ignoring his own kids, like Gwendolyn Peden and Isabel, on national television. Christine, on the other hand, has declined to call out Kody directly. She doesn't mention him in public when fans ask hard questions. She doesn't discuss the settlement. She doesn't discuss that part of her book unless asked to. And that, besties, is deliberate. Because Christine knows if she speaks the whole truth in public, it might rekindle legal tension, embarrass Truly, or jeopardize any tenuous relationship that is still between father and daughter. So what does she do instead? She lets silence speak. And you know what? It's deafening. And let's not forget, Kody's the one who pushed to seal the case. He's the one who fought for privacy. He's the one who settled before discovery. He's the one who made sure we'll never know the full support order or court findings, unless something goes legally wrong. That level of protection. It is not about keeping Truly out of the press. It is about keeping himself out of public answerability. Besties, we've reached the end of this emotional, stunning, and deeply disturbing journey. We've tracked the timeline. We've read the court documents. We've scrutinized Christine's book line by line. We've linked the real estate, the trust transfers, the sealed orders, the parenting silence, and the cache of luxury that followed. But the question we began with still hangs in the air. Did Christine's book suggest abuse? And is that why the court moved quickly and besties? After everything we've uncovered, the answer looks more and more like yes. Christine didn't spell it out. She didn't use the word abuse. She didn't point fingers or quote truly directly. But instead, she gave us something more powerful. She gave us a pattern. She gave us emotionally loaded silence. She gave us a mother's intuition written in between the lines. She said, truly didn't feel welcome. Something in her eyes changed. I won't share the details, but it broke me. I stopped asking her to go. She made up her mind. Trauma, informed writing language calls this coded disclosure, when a survivor, or someone who is shielding a survivor, decides to say enough to be heard without reopening the wound too completely. Christine wrote what she knew was true. The court heard it, and Kody, he bolted. Now, to respond to the second half of the title, yes, the court completely expedited faster than usual, and that is not guesswork. That is on the pace of settlement, the swift sealing of the case, the cutoff of discovery, prior to depositions, the full shutdown of visitation, and the vanishing of Kody's name off big assets after the ruling family court doesn't always cooperate to provide justice. But it certainly moves quickly when a child is in crisis, a home life is unsafe, or a parent appears to be using money or power to manipulate the system. And guess what? Christine's veiled hints, combined with Truly's adamant refusal to come back, were all the court required. This was never merely about child support. It wasn't even about a bedroom with no curtains. This was about years of emotional manipulation, financial dishonesty, and a man attempting to flee responsibility, not just from his former wife, but from the daughter who finally said, "Enough." And Robyn, she wasn't just standing alongside him. She was wearing the ring, hanging the paintings, turning away and letting it all unfold. Christine was in on it all too. She couldn't say it in court. She couldn't say it on television. She couldn't risk hurting Truly more than Kody had. So she did the next thing. She wrote a book. A precisely crafted, profoundly moving, legally conscious memoir of survival that said to the world, look closer. It is all here. And besties, we looked. And now, undefined way. See it, Christine shielded Truly with her quiet. The court shielded them both with its haste, and Kody, undefined hay, shielded himself with loopholes and lies. But no painting, no trust, no Rolex can conceal the truth indefinitely. And the minute Truly speaks up for herself, the entire story may finally be revealed. What do you believe Christine was attempting to reveal? Undefined, did she suggest that there is more than we're even witnessing? Tell me in the comments. Undefined, let's give Christine and Truly the voice they were not permitted to have in court. Share your theories, Undefined. Like this deep dive, Simport, ring that subscribe bell if you haven't. We're just getting started. Thank you for taking this ride with me. Undefined, see you in the next one. Bye, besties.